Sweden, mid-14th century, around 1346 AD. Winter pressed hard against the stone walls of Vadstena, and the wind from Lake Vättern moaned like a living thing. Inside a narrow cell lit by a single oil lamp, St. Bridget of Sweden knelt on bare boards, her fingers stiff with cold, her breath faint and white in the dim air. This was an age when faith was not gentle. It was heavy. It demanded blood, fasting, obedience, and silence. Bridget had known courts and crowns before she knew cloisters. She had advised kings, buried children, watched plague carts roll through villages without bells. But now, in the half-dark, her heart trembled for a quieter reason. A question had begun to trouble her prayers, returning night after night like a knocking she could not ignore. Holy water. It was everywhere. In fonts by church doors, sprinkled on the dying, dashed against walls to drive away unseen threats. People crossed themselves quickly, carelessly, trusting the gesture alone to shield them from harm. Bridget had done the same for years. Yet lately, something felt wrong. Not false, but incomplete. As though a veil had been lowered over a truth no one wished to examine too closely. She pressed her forehead to the floor. "Lord," she whispered, "teach me what we do not wish to learn." The lamp flickered. The silence deepened. Bridget's writings tell us she was a woman besieged by visions, some tender, others terrifying. She did not seek them. They came as interruptions, during Mass, in prayer, sometimes in the stillness before sleep when the mind grows most vulnerable. This night was no different. At first, the vision was ordinary, a village church. Stone worn smooth by centuries of hands. A font of holy water near the door, its surface disturbed by constant use. Men and women entered quickly, fingers dipping, lips moving in memorized prayer. But the sound was strange. The water did not ripple as water should. It lay heavy, dull, as if it resisted being touched. Then Bridget sensed something else, an absence. She saw a woman cross herself with haste, eyes already scanning the nave for neighbors. A man dipped his fingers and laughed softly, joking as he went, and with each careless motion, Bridget felt a tightening in her chest, like a warning ignored too long. A voice, not loud but absolute, spoke within her. "Not all that is blessed is received." The words struck her with fear. Bridget recoiled, heart pounding. Received? Holy water was blessed by priests, sanctified by prayer. How could it not be received? The vision darkened. Shadows lengthened along the church walls. Bridget saw unseen shapes recoil, not from the water itself, but from something else entirely. From intention, from reverence, from the unseen state of the soul approaching the font. The implication terrified her. If holy water was not a charm, if it was not a shield that worked automatically, then how many were trusting in the motion alone? How many believed themselves protected while remaining unchanged? Bridget awoke gasping, the chill of the cell suddenly unbearable. She wrapped her cloak tighter and sat in the darkness until dawn bells rang faintly across the frozen lake. In the days that followed, the vision would not release her. During Mass, as the priest sprinkled the congregation, Bridget watched faces closely. Some were solemn, others distracted. She felt again that inward warning, subtle but insistent. This was dangerous knowledge. To suggest that holy water demanded something of the soul, that it could, in a sense, stand powerless before indifference, was to challenge comfort itself. People wanted certainty without cost, protection without repentance, ritual without interior change. Bridget wrestled with fear. Had she misunderstood? Was this a temptation toward pride, imagining herself entrusted with secrets others could not bear? She fasted. She prayed longer hours. And still, the sense grew stronger. This truth was not new, but forgotten. One evening, alone again, Bridget finally spoke aloud the thought she had resisted. If they knew, she whispered, would they listen? The silence did not answer. But something in that silence told her the visions were not finished, and that what she would soon be shown would carry consequences, not only for her, but for anyone willing to hear it. What would you have done in this moment? She lowered herself to her knees once more, knowing that the next revelation would not be gentle, and that once revealed, the secret of holy water could never again be unseen. She lowered herself to her knees once more, knowing that the next revelation would not be gentle, and that once revealed, the secret of holy water could never again be unseen. That night Bridget did not sleep. The hours passed in watchful stillness, broken only by the distant creak of timber and the low breathing of the convent around her. Just before dawn, when the mind hovers between waking and surrender, the weight returned, not as fear, but as a presence. The air in the cell thickened, and the lamp flame bent as though pushed by an unseen breath. Her vision opened again. She stood not in a church now, but at its threshold. The door was open. Inside, darkness pooled like ink. Outside, pale light fell upon the font of holy water, carved stone worn smooth by centuries of touch. Bridget sensed she was being asked to watch carefully, to notice what others never did. A priest approached first. His vestments were clean, his gestures precise. He dipped his fingers and traced the sign of the cross with practiced ease. But behind him, clinging like smoke, Bridget saw something unsettling. The sign faded almost as soon as it was made, dissolving into nothing. The voice returned. Where there is no humility, grace does not remain. Her chest tightened. The priest had performed the rite correctly. The water had been properly blessed. Yet something essential had failed, not in the sacrament, but in the soul approaching it. The scene shifted. A woman entered next, shoulders bowed, eyes red with recent tears. She hesitated before the font, fingers trembling as they touched the surface. Her lips moved slowly, deliberately. As she crossed herself, Bridget saw the water flare, bright, sharp, alive. The unseen shadows recoiled violently, tearing away as if burned. The contrast was unbearable. Bridget understood now why the truth had been hidden. This was not a comforting mystery. It demanded accountability. Holy water was not magic. It was a meeting place between the church's blessing and the inner disposition of the one who received it, and many arrived empty-handed. The vision deepened, growing darker still. Bridget was shown homes marked with chalked crosses, doors sprinkled with holy water during times of fear, plague, famine, war. Yet inside some of those homes, bitterness festered, confession neglected, hatred preserved like a cherished relic. The water dried on the doorposts, leaving no trace behind. External signs, the voice said softly, cannot replace an unturned heart. Bridget wanted to look away. The implications pressed down on her spirit. How many times had she herself relied on holy signs while resisting interior change? How many prayers had been rushed? How many gestures hollow? Then came the most frightening vision of all. She saw demons, not raging, but waiting, watching churches, watching fonts, not fleeing immediately at the sight of holy water, but observing the souls who approached it. When reverence was absent, they did not retreat. They smiled. This was the secret no one spoke aloud. Holy water did not fail. People did. Bridget's breath caught in her throat. If this were proclaimed openly, many would be offended. Others would despair. And some, perhaps most, would refuse to believe it at all. It was far easier to trust an object than to confront the interior life. The vision released her suddenly. She collapsed forward, palms against the floor, heart racing. Dawn light crept through the narrow window, pale and indifferent. For hours she remained there, shaken. This knowledge was heavy, dangerous, and easily misunderstood. To misuse it would be to wound faith. To hide it would be disobedience. Later that day, Bridget recorded the vision carefully, choosing her words with fear and precision. She did not condemn. She warned. She emphasized mercy, repentance, humility. Always humility. Still, she knew how easily the message could be twisted or ignored. As the convent bell rang for prayer, Bridget felt a quiet certainty settle over her. The final meaning of the vision had not yet been revealed. Something remained. A consequence. A choice. And it would demand more than understanding. Could you face this truth yourself? She rose slowly, stepping toward the chapel, unaware that the final revelation would soon force her, and all who heard it, to reconsider every careless gesture made at the church door. She rose slowly, stepping toward the chapel, unaware that the final revelation would soon force her, and all who heard it, to reconsider every careless gesture made at the church door. It came not in darkness, but in light. Days later, during Mass, Bridget knelt among the sisters as the priest lifted the chalice. Sunlight broke through high windows, striking dust in the air like drifting embers. For a brief moment, everything felt peaceful, almost merciful. Then the weight returned, heavier than before. This time, the vision did not remove her from the world. It sharpened it. She saw the chapel exactly as it was, and yet not as others saw it. Around each person, Bridget perceived a quiet truth. The state of the soul revealed not by words, but by posture, by stillness, by resistance. When the aspergillum was raised and holy water scattered, something astonishing unfolded. Where hearts were contrite, the droplets fell like fire, sinking inward, leaving a mark that lingered long after the water dried. Where hearts were closed, the droplets struck and slid away, touching skin but never entering deeper. No explosion, no punishment, only absence. And then she understood the final, terrible mercy of it all. God did not force grace. Holy water was not a weapon wielded against evil regardless of the soul. It was an invitation, a consent. A door opened from within. Without that consent, even the most sacred sign remained at the surface, honored but unreceived. The voice spoke one last time, quieter now. I do not withhold my help. They withhold themselves. Tears filled Bridget's eyes. This was the secret that frightened her most. Not that people were unprotected, but that they often chose comfort over conversion, habit over humility, gesture over truth. After Mass, she remained kneeling long after others had left. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with responsibility. This revelation was not meant to strip faith of mystery. It was meant to restore its seriousness. In her later writings, Bridget would record this carefully. Holy water drives away evil not by motion alone, but when met by repentance, reverence, and faith. Used thoughtlessly, it becomes a sign accusing the soul of its own indifference. Used rightly, it becomes a quiet terror to darkness. She never claimed people should stop using it. She warned them to stop using it lightly. Years passed. Bridget's visions spread across Christendom, debated, doubted, revered. But the practice remained, and still remains, the same. Fingers dip, foreheads are marked, doors are crossed. The question endures. When you touch holy water, what are you offering in return? Silence answered her question then, just as it answers now. If this story made you pause, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if it changed the way you will cross yourself next time, let others know by liking this video and following the channel for more forgotten truths hidden in history. Because some secrets were never meant to be dramatic, only honest. And once seen, they cannot be unseen.